Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. I am going to do something a little bit sort of provocative first. First thing, I'm going to suggest that we make a better circle. So you guys, if you're willing, scooch down a seat. Come on. And you guys that, if you're willing, come up a seat. And if you need some space, if you want to make some social distancing space, pull the chairs that way a little bit. Because we are actually going to have an experiential circle. Okay. Now, Diane and Sherry, are you comfortable juggling a little closer? Wherever you want to go that you feel comfortable, and move chairs. If you want to move chairs, move chairs. Good morning to everyone who's here, both virtually and on our virtual world. Today is going to be different because today we've been doing world religions. Today we're doing circle. So it looks like we're going to be ending up making a second row of the circle, but if you come a little further up closer, make it this way, up this way. Okay. As opposed to way back there. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi. Good morning. I'm Reverend Carol Bodeau. Welcome to our virtual participants. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today we are continuing at Westside our series of world religions. We have looked at a lot of different traditions, and as you can see, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be in a circle. I'm not going to stand up. Circles are not hierarchical. The choir will stand up to sing just so we can be heard, but we're going to be doing this in a circle worship format today, okay? So, good to have you all here. This is going to be somewhat participatory. I'm going to give you the few announcements for those of you who are here that are in your order of service. For those of you who are watching us on our live stream, you'll be able to get more information about these on our website. So, first thing, our spring canvas is continuing. We're reaching the very end of our spring canvas campaign, very end. So if you'd like to pledge or make a donation, now is the time to do it. You can do that online or you can do that in person. Second Monday lunch is happening on the 9th. That's a week from tomorrow. That's Monday the 9th at 11:30 at Bonefish Grill. Please let one of the organizers know if you want to attend. We continue to have our Wednesday evening and Thursday evening conversation groups. The Wednesday evening is specifically theology focused, and the Thursday evening is more broadly defined. The group defines that in advance. An opportunity coming up later this month, Woman Spirit, is held at the Mountain, and that is a gathering for anyone who self-identifies as a woman. It's a multi-faith gathering of people who come together for a couple of days. There's information on our website. You can contact Ann Hess about that. And finally, starting today, our Earth-Based Practices Circle starts this afternoon, once a month. So we're doing Beltane this morning kind of as part of our kickoff for that. Once a month, there will be a gathering outside, unless we are afraid of lightning. We will be careful about lightning, but once a month, closest to the new moon, we'll be having an outdoor circle where the sermon is nature itself. So everyone is invited to join us for that. You can learn more about that on our website. So, take a deep breath. Notice whatever it is you are thinking right now. Wow, this is weird, sitting in a circle. Yay, we're finally sitting in a circle. Gosh, I have so much on my mind. I don't know these people. Oh, I haven't seen them in a long time. Whatever you're thinking, allow your thoughts to drop. We're going to be doing some extended meditation today with some drumming. But today we're going to be in the circle. And the circle is meant to be a gathering that is rooted in the heart and the body. The circle is non-hierarchical, although there are people who facilitate parts of the circle. It's not hierarchical like much of our Western style of worship and ritual gathering is. So we've learned in the last few weeks we talked about Ramadan in the tradition of Islam. We talked about Easter in the tradition of Christianity. We talked about Passover in the Jewish tradition. Today we're talking about one of the holiest days in the earth-based or neo-pagan traditions, Beltane, sometimes called May Day. It's the Celtic celebration of early summer. It honors the turning of the seasons to warmth and new life as the wheel of the year turns. And like all earth-centered holidays, it's part of this bigger wheel of the year. It moves from autumn. Actually, in the Celtic tradition, New Year's is what we call in the West Halloween. Samhain is New Year's Day. Okay? So from the autumn to the winter to the spring to the summer and back to autumn. And that is an ever-turning wheel. So we're sitting in a circle and we're focusing on circles. It focuses us on perpetual cycles of life and death and rebirth. And it focuses us on things like the shape of the sun, the shape of the moon, the shape of the planets as they cycle around the sun, right? The natural world generally does not move in a linear fashion. It moves in webs and spirals and more complex patterns. Matter of fact, I don't know if any of you are armchair archaeologists, but one of the clearest signs an archaeologist will say that something is man-made rather than natural is if it's got a straight line edge. So if you find something in nature that's got a straight line edge, that's truly a straight line edge, the archaeologist will say, oh, that's not natural. That's man-made. So today we are going to be starting with circles. And part of that is participation of the circle. So various people have been spontaneously invited to read things during this service. And that's another part of the circle is spontaneity. It's not a super performative, pre-scripted kind of deal. It's more organic. So who is it that has our first reading from Ralph Waldo Emerson? It's Lori.
This reading is from Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Circles. Our life is an apprenticeship to the truth that around every circle another can be drawn, that there is no end in nature, but every end is a beginning, that there is always another dawn risen on mid-noon, and under every deep, a lower deep opens.
So the choir is going to sing a song that's very much about circles and spiraling. And what you're invited to do is notice the way that the chant, because chants are the most common form of music that's used in circle-based worship. Because they're repetitive, you don't have to look at a book to know the words. You can remember them quite easily. And they can be overlapping. The lines can overlap, the melodies and the harmonies can overlap in forms that actually embody this kind of circle and spiraling nature. So I'm going to invite the choir to kind of stand up and gather here. So doesn't that feel circular? Chants are often used in that way to get us in our bodies to feel circling and cycling and linked connections between things. The second thing in our service that's about the circle is the bowl. Like the chant form of music, the Himalayan, or sometimes called Tibetan bowl, invokes and evokes the essential qualities of the circle. The bowl itself is round, but more importantly, the sounds of the bowl reach out in circular waves. So you invite the bowl to sound, and the sound goes out in wave patterns. Most cause and effect in our lives, we tell ourselves the story that cause and effect is linear. But I invite you to think about that for a second. Can you think of an action in your life that really only had effects in one direction? The effects of our actions are multi-directional, right? They're not simply linear. They are actually complex. Our actions, for good or ill, move in many directions, many of them that we can't even see. Right? They move out in waves. So as we invite the bowl to sound, what we're thinking about is how things move in radiating patterns. So the tradition we're looking at today is celebrated by what we call neo-pagan people, which is one of the world's largest growing religious traditions. The earth-based traditions are growing dramatically on the planet. As a matter of fact, there are countries in the world which have recently established earth-based pagan traditions in their culture as national religions. And the wheel, or the tradition that is most widely recognized in the United States, is the Celtic Wheel. Now there are lots and lots of circular cosmologies and theologies. Indigenous people all over the world have circular cosmologies. So in North America, there are a lot of different Native North American tribal traditions which have circular cosmologies. The one that non-Indigenous people practice the most comes from what we understand as Celtic traditions. And this and other traditions describe life as a circular pathway and kind of spiraling. So we go around the circle each year, and each year we repeat the pattern of the cycle of the stage. And these stages are correlated to lots of things. So they're correlated to the directions. They're correlated to the seasons of the year. They're correlated to stages of life. They're correlated to colors and temperatures and the elements and mythical figures and all sorts of things. So you can actually find charts that will say east, and it'll have 20 different things that are associated with it. So we're going to sample a few of those today, okay? So in most of these wheels, the east is the beginning place. It's because the sun rises in the east is considered the place of sunrise. It's considered the place of morning. It's associated with spring and new beginnings. The color is often associated with yellow. So it's the place of breath and inspiration and the beginning. And David, I believe, has our poem for this direction.
Gerard Manley Hopkins.
Do you want the microphone?
Wild air, world-mothering air, nestling me everywhere, that each eyelash or hair girdles goes home betwixt the fleeciest, frailest, fixed snowflakes that's fairly mixed with riddles, and is rife in every least thing's life. This needful, never spent, and nursing element, my more than meat and drink, my meal at every wink, this air which by life's law my lung must draw and draw, now but to breathe its praise.
So let's take a minute to think about air. Go ahead, Chris, as we prepare to light our chalice, we need a spark. What's interesting, this is what's really interesting about the wheel. Think about the cardinal 4 directions. There's a place in between them, right? Air and fire, east and south, they have a relationship between them. What happens when you add air to a spark? Can you have fire without air? Not possible. So, in the Celtic and pagan wheel, fire is located in the south, but it requires the air of the east. Grandfather fire, we light this chalice with a spark of cosmic heat. May it ignite within us an inner flame that is fed by our breath, warms our hearts, fuels our passions, and transforms all that we are. So take a breath. And take another breath. And another one. We really don't think about this very much. We don't think about our breath. Now let's do a little experiment. For those of you that are physically able to do this and have no medical conditions that this would be contraindicated, breathe fast for a second. Now stop. Now just notice if you feel any different. Now breathe really, really slow in through your nose and out through your mouth. The trick is to breathe out through your mouth. Feels weird. How many of you are going, this is weird, why are you making me do this? Always. Always. Okay, here's the thing. There are whole sciences of how the breath changes our metabolism, changes our nervous system. So the way just like when we use air to light the fire there, the same thing happens in our bodies. The rate at which we breathe, the way in which we breathe affects the way our nervous systems and our metabolism and our inner fire actually functions. So it's just worth noticing. There's a whole science in the yogic tradition of the different forms of breath that are used to create different effects in the body. There's like you can study it for the rest of your life, a whole world of just what to do with air to make your internal fire change. All right, so once we get to fire, we're in the south. We've come from air in the east, the place of beginning, the place of springtime, to fire, which is the south. Just as the east is associated with morning and spring, the south is associated with midday. It's associated with summer. It's a place of passionate energy where the new ideas that come from the inspiration in the east, where they are given life and body through action. The south's color is red, the color of passion. It's the place of heat and the fire in the belly that makes us choose to move. The fire of passion for action can't thrive without air. And have you ever noticed that if you're feeling, if you've got a cold, you're feeling congested, you're having a hard time breathing, or if you're anxious and you're not breathing well, how you don't feel very good about doing things? Think about that for a second. You just don't feel like you're not going to have the same level of committed energy for doing things. So fire is about our inner flame. Next experiment. Circles are all about experiments. Close your eyes if you are willing, or gaze on the chalice, gaze on a flame. For those of you who are with us virtually, gaze on something. Close your eyes or gaze on something that makes you feel restful. And see if you can notice inside yourself sort of a central energy. just notice where it is. For some people, it's going to be up closer to your head. For other people, it might be in your belly. Notice if you have a place where you feel like your awareness is drawn in yourself. We have a tendency in Western linear hierarchical society to always be looking outside to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. The practice of the circle is to come into your center. So see if you can just find what your center feels like. In a circle, there is one center, but no person is the center. Everyone is a center gathered together, kind of like a, cool Venn diagram, right? Every person's center is part of the circle, but the center is held by collective energy. You can open your eyes if you want to. You keep them closed, take a nap, whatever is okay. The cool thing about the circle is wherever you are is okay. As people were coming in, I was saying, would you like to read? And they were like, oh, I'm on the spot. And I'm like, it's a circle. You don't have to if you don't want to. Wherever you are is okay. Wherever you are is okay. In the circle, every being, every presence matters. There's no one person or creature who's above the others, but each has its own unique gift. And if we were out in nature, it truly would be every creature, not every person, but every creature. So in our circles at Westside and in our regular services at Westside, we do take an offering. This time what we're going to do is, Alice, I'm just going to invite you to put one bowl and we're going to pass it all the way around. If you'd like to put something in that, wonderful. If you'd like to put breath into the bowl, put breath into the bowl. If you'd like to put a prayer into the bowl, put a prayer into the bowl, because every gift matters. And as that goes around, Chris is going to begin drumming for us. Maybe a heartbeat. Go ahead and put it up there, Alice. Put it on that table. Yep, please. Yep. Maybe a little louder. One of the most important spiritual tools of earth-based ritual and celebration is the drum, which, obvious first clue, it's a circle, right? Like the bowl, its circular shape is meant to evoke and embody the qualities of the circling planets, the stars, the seasons. It's a reminder of the core theological concepts of eternity, life and death, wholeness that abides in things and beings. Drumming is used in earth-based communities to create group coherence. We talked recently about how the drum, actually, we know scientifically, it entrains our hearts to actually beat in rhythm. And drum beats also induce meditative and trance states. So we're going to drum for a minute. And the other thing to notice about the drum, partway between the south and fire and the west and water, we have the heartbeat. Our hearts pump our blood, which is liquid, but they're also what fuels us. So the drum comes at the place where fire and water meet. And we're just going to drum for actually longer than you may feel comfortable with. And I encourage you to breathe and notice your heartbeat. Just notice if you feel any different. Or if you're resisting feeling any different, that's a feeling too. As the wheel turns, we arrive in the west, the place of maturity, the place of evening. We've moved from morning to midday to evening. We've moved from spring to summer, and now we're in the autumn. And we've moved from air to fire to water. The West is associated with water and with the stage of life, whether human life or the life of a project or a relationship. The cycle works for all things. When things begin to mellow, move into ripening and quietness. The season of autumn is also associated with the place of deep emotion. The West is often marked by the color blue or black, and it's where we allow things to flow as they will, where we surrender. We're not pushing, we're not efforting, we're not trying, we're just letting go. The feeling associated with the West is of letting things subside, letting them just run their course, okay? We become receptive rather than active. And notice that with we go from thoughts to passions to regular emotions. Just what are our emotions? How do we feel? We often, when we are allowing ourselves to have feelings, they are feelings of sadness or grief. That we are usually pretty good at expressing our joy. Like, we're usually pretty good at celebrating and having parties and telling people when we're happy, but we have a much harder time with the West. We are trained in our culture to not grieve publicly. Think for a minute about cultures that are more indigenous or earth-centered. Think about the kinds, and even in older traditions in, let's say, Celtic, Northern European or European countries, think about grieving rituals. Anybody know what keening is? Keening is the weeping, the yelling, the wailing at the time of a death. So, how many of you would be willing to actually keen or wail publicly? That's probably not something most of us are going to do. I cannot tell you the number of times that I have in my life as a pastor who is supposed to be completely present when people grieve, how many thousands of apologies I have heard for someone having a tear run down their cheek. I'm sorry, I've lost my composure. Give me a minute to get myself back together. We have a very hard time grieving and allowing our tears to fall because we're culturally trained not to. This is not so much true in other cultures. There are many cultures in which weeping and wailing and howling are completely normal. But think about how we train babies and small children. One of the first things we try to teach them to do is to not yell. And how many of us would be super happy if once in a while we could have a temper tantrum on the floor, kicking? Like, we have those feelings. We've just been trained that we're not supposed to show them. So, the West is about feeling our feelings fully, letting them flow, understanding that grieving and ending, becoming towards closure is a normal part of the human experience. And there's a poem, we're going to hear D.H. Lawrence's poem, Autumn Rain, which evokes some of these qualities, the sense of loss and darkness that are associated with autumn and the movement of deep emotions in the West. Is that you, Alan?
The plane leaves fall black and wet on the lawn. The cloud sheaves in heaven's fields set droop and are drawn in falling seeds of rain. The seed of heaven on my face falling, I hear again like echoes even that softly pace heaven's muffled floor. the winds that tread out all the grain of tears, the store harvested in the sheaves of pain caught up aloft, the sheaves of dead men that are slain now winnowed soft on the floor of heaven, manna invisible of all the pain here to us given, finally divisible, falling as rain.
In all of these directions, the east, the south, the west, and soon will be in the north, we understand the cycles of life and the movement of breath and passion and emotion and nature. These things move through us. It's not like we harness them and we gather them and we do something with. It's not linear. They move, they flow, they have kind of an organic kind of movement. What we're going to do next is the choir is going to sing a song that's about how those energies move in and through us and flow through our bodies, our minds, and our hearts. So you can feel in that song the taking in and the rising and the shifting and the changing of nature's rhythms. Finally, we come to the north. The north is the place of winter. It's the place of nighttime. It's the place of death. and silence. The energy of the north is absolute stillness. It's the place where we honor endings because they're necessary before any new beginnings. Sometimes the north is associated with the color green for the earth. More often, it's associated with black for the darkness of deep night or even the grave, and sometimes with the purity of white for snow and cold. But it invites us, what it really invites us to do is to honor endings, closings. We have a tendency to only honor endings, for example, at funerals or memorials. And even then, we do have a tendency to celebrate, say we're having a celebration of life, which is beautiful, but in our society, we have a tendency not to truly honor an ending, a completion. So I invite you to think of something in your life which is coming to completion. Might be a hope or a dream. Might be a relationship. Might be an expectation. Might be a stage of life. Might be something you're really glad to have ending, or something that you dread ending. And be with that for a minute. I will tell you that one of the things I know as someone who counsels a lot of people, that 80% of my job is to help people go back and grieve the things they never grieved. The things that they were too quickly encouraged to go on past, that they didn't take enough time to allow to come fully into settled quietness. So instead of having the quiet and stillness in our hearts, we are carrying all the unresolved tears of the West. We've never let them fully flow out, and we're sitting, holding in our bodies and our minds and our hearts all sorts of things that we've never really let end because they're still ungrieved. We think this is a good thing because we want to keep going. We want to keep functioning. We got to get to the next thing. But the truth of the matter is that it's really hard to really truly start something when the last thing isn't done. And so we carry into every new relationship the trauma of the last relationship, even if it was when we were 16. We carry into every new gathering with our family all the things that are not done from all the previous gatherings we had with our family, even if they were when we were 6. We carry into our communities, our churches, our social circles, all the things that are not done from the last community, and we expect the same hurts over and over again because we've never really let the old ones end. Does that make sense? Is that resonating with anybody? Mm-hmm. The circle teaches us that we have to actually fully grieve and fully honor the endings. That cool new ideas and beginnings and projects and starts and getting going, and those are great, but they're only half of the circle. And in order to really do them well, we have to do the other half of the circle too. Endings are as sacred as beginnings. Grieving is as important as celebrating. Anger is as beautiful as joy. Fear is as relevant as peace. Everything on the wheel counts equally. Nothing is better or worse. On the wheel and in the circle, all things, all creatures on the planet, all people in a gathering, regardless of whether they're speaking or not speaking, leading or following, winning or losing, all emotions, everything has equal value. Think about how different a theology, think about how different a philosophy or a cosmology that is than the one we live in our dominant culture. That is profoundly different. So it's just worth noting as we move through these different world religions we've been exploring that there are some very core different assumptions in different traditions about what reality is and what matters and what success looks like and what's good and what's not good. The circle invites us to think about things really differently. So, Henry David Thoreau, who's claimed by Unitarians as one of our greatest voices, sang the praises of all stages of life. He was a student of the wisdom of the earth, and he spoke about endings as simply part of the cycle of living. One of the things he said is, death is beautiful. Death is beautiful when seen to be a law and not an accident. It is as common as life. He reminds us that the cycle of life requires not that we avoid endings, but that we participate in all stages of the circle, birth and growing and declining and ending, that we participate in all of that fully. And Christina has some more words from Henry David Thoreau for us.
I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach and not, when it came to die, discover that I had not lived.
So, as we come towards the close of our circle, I want to invite you, I'm going to do this weird thing again, close your eyes. I invite you to close your eyes again. We invite the closing of the eyes for a very good reason. The eyes cause us to focus on externals and visuals outside of ourselves. And when we close our eyes, we are somewhat forced internally. In traditional other religions, when we are sitting in rows that are lines and we are looking up at a person who is speaking to us, we are forced to see the center of our world outside of ourselves. We're looking outside of ourselves at something external to find truth or meaning or value. In the circle, and often we close our eyes and we look at a center focusing point rather than a person, because we are asked to invite the center of ourselves to be the center of our awareness. And here's the question I just want to pose to you today. What if your internal monitor, what you really feel, what if that were the thing that you followed? Now, not the story of what you should or shouldn't do that somebody else told you, but what if you woke up in the morning and you said, today I feel joyful. I'm going to do something joyful. Or you woke up and you said, today I feel grief. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be still. Or you woke up and you said, today I'm in the South. I need to be creative. Now, I understand practicality. But think about how many times in a day we let something external tell us how we should act. You will know this by the thought or the feeling of should. Should is always a marker that it didn't come from me. It didn't come in from my internal monitor. It came from an external voice that put that message inside me that I'm now going to try to follow. So I invite you to take a kinesthetic experience of the circle as you go into your day, your week. And ask yourself, before you make decisions, maybe in the morning when you wake up, what's in my center? What do I really, truly want? What do I truly need? Because here's the deal, when we're in a circle, if we're all doing that, we get a really great circle. Because everybody's bringing their unique gifts and talents. But think about what happens in communities where everybody in the circle is trying to prove that they're doing what they should do better than everybody else who's doing what they should do, because we know what we're supposed to do and we're doing it better than everybody else who's doing it. And we're mad when somebody else tries to make us do what they think we should do. And we're mad when somebody else does it better when we wanted to win. Think about the competitiveness of being guided by should, instead of all of us just sitting together saying, it's okay for me to be right where I am right here today. Totally different. Totally different. Not practical on a Vols Saturday, necessarily. We all know that the Vols are going to go out there and they're going to compete. We're going to get in those linear modes. But it's nice to once in a while just notice the circle and the center. So I invite you to open your eyes back up. And now look around the circle. This is the other thing that's freaky about circles. When we're sitting in lines, everybody's just paying attention to the one person who's brave enough to stand up in front and talk. But when we sit in a circle, we have the awkward situation of looking at each other. I invite you to be courageous enough to meet someone's eyes. Dangerous, revolutionary, radical. Meet someone's eyes. This is a community, and you can mess with them if you want. That's your experience. In the moment, I'm feeling a little impish. I'm going to mess with them. Or maybe you're feeling really vulnerable, and when you look and you meet someone's eyes, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tear up. Happens all the time, right? Someone looks at us and we're like, okay, don't look at me like that. Don't, right? As you go into your day and your week, just carry a little bit of this with you. It's actually pretty revolutionary. It's pretty revolutionary to carry this into your encounters with other people. Chris, would you extinguish the chalice for us, please? We take the light of passion, that breath. We take that circulating, flowing energy of water, and we take the solidness of earth. All of the things that we talked about today, they're in our bodies. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Go with the circle of wholeness that is within you.